our topic this evening is a really interesting one. And it's a place that I have seen a number of people kind of stumble in their inquiry. So they're exploring away, and everybody seems comfortable and to dive into their issues and their problems and their difficulties and all of that. And actually, in a previous dive in with Don session, we looked at what if there's not even that there, if there's just nothing present. But this evening we want to look at like what's going on when it's good, when you're actually feeling good, when there's something really positive present in your experience. Is that something that you inquire into? And if not, how come? Something to get curious about there. So I want to see a quick show of hands if you are new, if this is your first session here. Okay, nobody new. Oh, there we go. 1 or 2, 3. Hi, welcome. Samuel, Ellen, Ikanta. Good, great to see you guys. And anybody who's totally new to inquiry, who's, hasn't inquired before, doesn't know anything about inquiry. No? Okay, good. Alrighty. So we're going to start, as we usually do, with a short practice. So I'm going to invite you to find a comfortable meditation posture for yourself. And it's really just a practice to get a little more present, a little more in touch. So take a nice breath, just in through your nose, out through your mouth, just landing where you are. And you can begin remembering an orientation of friendly interest. So you're turning towards your experience, and this friendly interest is vital. Really underlies the whole movement of inquiry. Not trying to change or fix anything. We're just curious. We want to find out about ourselves and about our experience. Notice how you're feeling as we start this evening or this morning for you. Think just where are you at right now? How are you feeling? What's on your mind? How's your energy? You're just making a little space for exactly where you are. Taking a few minutes to just recognize it. Recognize something about it. And now I invite you to bring your felt sense attention down to your right foot. And begin to sense into the sensations of your right foot. And feel the contact with the floor, muscles or the bones, the skin of your right foot. Maybe it's the sock or the pressure of your shoe. Taking a moment to get in touch with the sensations of your right foot. Really directly, immediately in touch. And just notice, how is it? Like, is your right foot feeling good? Is it feeling painful or achy? Maybe it's barely there. You can't really feel much there at all. So however it is fine. There's no way you're supposed to experience it. Just letting it be as it is. And then let the sensing move up into your right ankle and your right lower leg. Ankle, shin, the calf. Taking a moment to get in touch with the immediacy of your sensations. These immediate sensate experiences in your body. You might notice ordinary physical sensations. You might notice energy, or tingling, or presence. And then come up into your right knee. What can you sense there? And moving up into your right thigh, inner and outer thigh, top and the bottom of the thigh, the whole length and dimensionality of your right thigh, and your right hip and your right buttock on the chair. How does that feel? Does it feel good? Does it feel pleasurable to be in touch with your right leg? Does it feel uncomfortable in some way? Just to notice. And sense the whole of your right leg, from the toes all the way up to the hip. And seeing how it affects you to be in touch with your right leg in this way. And then sense into your right fingers, your right hand, your right wrist. Getting in touch with whatever you can sense there. Sensing up into your right forearm. Really contacting the immediacy of your consciousness of your body. It's like you're bringing your arm online in your experience. Sensing every cell, every molecule. Sensing up into your right elbow and your right upper arm. And what's that like? How does it feel? What's the texture of it? Or the temperature? Maybe there are parts that almost seem missing, like you just can't feel anything there. And then sense that. That's also a valid experience. And then coming to your right shoulder. Front, the side, back of the shoulder, under the arm, shoulder blade, and the collarbone. How's your right shoulder feeling today? Might be feeling tense or contracted or open. Light. And sense the whole of your right arm, from the fingers to the shoulder. Really sensing into the whole of the arm. Feeling the whole arm in your consciousness. And then guide your attention across your neck to your left shoulder. And take some time to settle in there. To sense into the muscles or skin or texture of your clothing. The articulation of your shoulder joint. The flow of energy in your shoulder. Or maybe the presence, the very texture and substance of your shoulder, where you experience that. It's here-ness, palpable here-ness. And sensing down your left arm, the upper arm and the elbow. Letting each part come alive. Down into your forearm, and then the wrist and palm and hand and fingers of your left hand. And sense the whole of your left arm from the shoulder to the fingertips. And again, just notice, does it feel good? Does it feel good to be in touch with your body? Does it feel welcome, or disturbing, or not much? Like, so what? Trusting that however you're experiencing things is exactly the right way. It's just where you are, exactly what you need to be in touch with. And then bring your attention down to your left hip, your left buttock, and begin sensing your way down your left leg. The weight of your body, perhaps sitting against the chair, the joint, the hip joint where the leg meets the torso, your pelvis. Your left thigh down to your left knee, and on down your left lower leg to your left foot. Coming to the toes, the sole of your foot. In touch, directly sensing, not imagining, not making it up, but just being in touch with whatever it is that you can actually be in touch with. Now sense the whole of your left leg. And then let your sensing include both arms and both legs. Both arms, both legs. And taking a moment to just be in touch with that. This living, breathing, sensing phenomenon of your arms and legs. And notice how it's affected you to be in touch with your body in this way. What's the impact? Now, to your sensing, I want you to add listening. So add your auditory sensing. Sensing the sound, the whole field of sound around you. Perhaps through you, within you. What's it like to open to that, to really be in touch with that? To let it be as vividly in your experience, in your consciousness, as you can. So sensing and listening. Feel that for a moment, sensing and listening. And then take a breath. And when you're ready to, let your eyes gently open and begin looking. So you're including your visual sense, the visual field of your experience. It's also a region of your experience, part of your experience, something in your consciousness. The sights, the colors, the textures, the space, the objects, whatever it is you get in touch with. Looking. What's it like to be looking? How is that for you? How does that feel to you now? You might have done this exercise 100 times, 1,000 times before. What's it like now? You just approach it fresh. Quite funny. I've sensed, looked, and listened in this chair more times than I can remember. But right now it's fresh. So sensing, looking, and listening. Now, I have a question for you. I want you to just type a word or two in the chat. Like, how was that for you? What's it like? One or two words. Does it feel good? If it feels good, what kind of good? If it feels bad, what kind of bad? Just how's it impacted you? So we got good and clear, refreshing, feeling my aliveness. Yeah, fresh and alive, soaked in delight. Good but sleepy, grounding, tingling, warming and calming apart from the listening. Settling into myself, calming, stillness, nourishing, calming, relaxing. Pause to breathe, head quiet, pleasant and sleepy. Give space. All right, look at all these things. All these lovely things. Some hope, noticing, recognizing. So here's a question for you. Do you ever inquire into that? Did you ever go, okay, I sensed, looked, and listened. It feels so calming. Oh, what is this calmness? What's this calmness that I'm experiencing? What's that like? What could I say about it? How come that's happening? How come there's this beautiful calmness that I'm feeling, this space? It feels nourishing, somebody says. Oh, nourishing. Well, what's that? What is that experience of nourishment? What does that feel like? How do you experience it? How does it affect you to feel nourishing? Grounding. Well, how about that? What grounding? What's grounding like? Yeah, you see, so many different aliveness. Okay, I said, sense my arms and legs, and I feel this aliveness. Well, what's that aliveness like? How is it to sense that aliveness? Like, do you know everything about it? Yeah. I mean, when you think about it, it's kind of interesting that all you did, we took 5 minutes, I don't know, 10 minutes. You sensed, looked, and listened, and all these things popped into the field, right? Popped into your experience. Pleasant, lovely things. So this is my curiosity, like, how come we don't inquire into that? How come we don't take as much time, or at least some time, to kind of appreciate, oh, wow, I'm feeling this aliveness, or I'm feeling this freshness that's just kind of showed up here, right? What's that about? What is that? What am I in touch with? What am I actually sensing? And oh, it feels like some kind of fresh openness, open, spacious, kind of fresh, awake, clear. Yeah, I feel it in my head, right? You can explore that and inquire into that experience. It is your consciousness you're feeling, right? Some kind of consciousness, some kind of presence. So it's just a sort of point of departure for our topic, just to kind of show that in certain ways we don't really have to go that far to encounter all kinds of things in our experience that are actually good, that feel pleasant, nice, wonderful. And my takeaway, lead with the punchline, is my Christmas present or my festive end of year gift and invitation to you is to explore this sometimes too. Is an invitation that actually looking into this is every bit as important and as valid as looking into all the issues and the problems and the reactions and all of that that we more naturally tend to focus on. So why do I say that? Well, I think as you probably know, for many of us, for a lot of the time, and for a long time, certainly at the beginning and for a long time, the whole orientation, if we're really honest, that underlies inquiry is trying to get rid of some kind of problem, right? We have some kind of issue, we have some kind of suffering in our lives, and we hear all these things about just being interested in the truth and, the truth for its own sake and all of that. But really, I think a lot of the time we just want to feel better, right? We just want to actually get to grips with our issues and begin to find some freedom from them. And, inquiry can definitely help with that. Sometimes in a very roundabout, gets much worse before it gets better kind of way. And really, there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's part of the natural orientation of human beings. And our whole consciousness, you think about to survive, has this orientation, this sensitivity to the problem, to the pain, to the discomfort. Because when things are okay, there's no problem. So there's no problem. You don't have to do anything about it. So this is a very deep kind of underlying orientation, actually. You think about it, it has very, very deep instinctual roots that if there's no problem, it's not a problem, there's nothing to mess with, we don't need to do anything about it. Whereas if there's a problem, we get activated, we want to try and fix the problem or solve the problem and basically make the suffering go away and so. And so, we might recognize at some point that inquiry can help with that and getting to the bottom and getting to our nature and going through all the challenges and difficulties that we encounter as we do eventually opens things up, right? So then we engage it for that end. But if you really think about it, like if the whole orientation is to feel better, we just take that premise, then surely it's worth taking a little time with the good feelings. I often see that, like I've had people in sessions and they're inquiring and they've been wanting love and whole thing about love. And then suddenly the love is right there in their experience. They're sitting there feeling sweet, kind of melting love overflowing in their heart. And within 2 minutes, they're off talking about the next issue. And it's like, whoa, stop, like just hang on a minute. Back up to what was happening there. And let's take a little time to just feel into this beautiful state that's arising in your heart. What if we actually just hang with that? Give it some space. Begin to discover what it is. So one problem I mentioned, the orientation to getting rid of problems. Another barrier is that oftentimes when we come across these beautiful, delicious states of being and states of presence, they're not kind of part of our usual sense of self. In that example I mentioned, the person been looking for love the whole time. Their whole orientation is as a person who doesn't have love and wants to find it. So when they start experiencing it right there in their own heart, it's like, that's not your usual thing. So your usual habit is going to move you away from it, take you off in a different direction, because it just doesn't feel familiar. It doesn't feel you don't really know what to do with it. It's easier to go off and start talking about something else. So that's another reason that we can get diverted away from staying with these things as they're arising. Another challenge can be that we don't actually know how to inquire into it. So this is an interesting one. Like, you know how to explore if you're angry, right? You're angry, feeling mad. You can talk about what you're angry about. That's kind of easy to talk about, and then explore it and find out, feel into the anger. All that kind of might feel, at least, you've got something substantial to hang on to. Same thing with your sadness or any other sort of emotional reaction. But what if you're just sitting there feeling this like blissful peacefulness? There's like wonderful, still peacefulness. It's not really a story to it. How are you going to inquire into it? How do you actually explore something like that? So another problem is that people just don't know how to explore it. Or your aliveness. If I said to you, yeah, you said you got in touch with this feeling of aliveness. How do you explore that? So one of the things that you can do is to just hang out with the state, right? So you kind of sense it, you let it happen, and then you just give yourself some time, like, what else can I say about this? Well, feels alive, feels like some kind of warmth and movement. You might notice where you feel it in your body. Well, I kind of feel it in my belly and my heart, sort of moving with this aliveness, flowing down into my arms. Like, how does that affect? Kind of makes me feel really strong and juicy. Feeling this aliveness. Suddenly I notice my visual perception of the room starts getting really sharp and clear. Feel raw, much more present in here. Really interesting. So you can stay with the state, and as it's happening, explore what it's like. And it moves from being a lot around the story into the direct exploration of the feeling as it's happening right there. Right? And that's an interesting shift as to how to do that. So yeah, these are all things that it is really important, actually. It's not just a nice Christmas invitation to have a bit of relief from your suffering and difficulty. It's really important. And it's important because inquiry isn't just about solving problems. Inquiry is about getting to know the truth of what you are, the truth of your nature. And that includes all the usual stories and reactions and all of those things. They're part of your experience that, as you explore and understand, will lead you deeper and deeper into yourself. And at some point, you'll begin encountering your nature, your very beingness. And here's another one of the punchlines, right? Your nature, your true nature, your beingness in just about all of its manifestations. Is that true? No, I think universally in all of its manifestations feels good. It feels good in some way. It might not feel good at first because you have some reaction to it, and that happens a lot. Or it might be mixed up in some history. There might be something that needs to be worked out about it. But at some point, as you begin to land in the experience of your nature itself, of your consciousness itself, it feels good. And it's really important to take the time to allow that experience to be felt and recognized and seen for what it is. You need to get intimately acquainted with it. Really get to know it, sense it in your body. Let it impact you in all the ways that it does. And I was talking earlier, the example of aliveness, like, okay, so I'm sitting here sensing this beautiful, strong, vital presence filling me and feels like me. Wow, like what's the implications of that? That's kind of that has some implications. I spend half my time walking around feeling that I don't have this aliveness, that I'm half dead and sort of feeling small and constricted. So, how about it? How is it to feel that actually this is my nature? That little helpless, weak child that I feel myself as a lot of the time is not actually fundamentally my nature. It's a big thing that's a big contemplation right there. So we need to get to know these qualities, and then we need to let them impact us, our own experience, like how it is to come to know myself in this way. And in time, to let it impact all the structures and the barriers that are in the way. So that little inner kid who shows up every so often and feels so weak and small, it's like, how is it to see that from here, from the place of my strength and my vitality? So you can see there's really a lot to look into, right? There's a lot of ways that the inquiry continues. It's not the case that we just get to, okay, hey, phew, I don't feel bad anymore. Let me hang up my shoes, call it a day, and, go and have a mince pie. You can go and have a mince pie. But really getting to know the presence, the truth of your beingness is really one of the gifts of inquiry. And it really highlights, I think it's one of the things that really puts into stark relief the difference between the kind of open-ended exploration that we engage in with inquiry and a kind of therapy, right? Or a problem-solving kind of coaching approach. Those kind of things work if you are trying to fix something or manage something or deal with something. Yeah. But inquiry is much faster than that, much bigger. It's just the direct exploration of whatever is true for you, right? Any experience, positive, negative. I'm not saying you should go out there and try and make up these positive experiences at all. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that if they show up in your experience, you don't want to just swim past them. You want to actually give them time and space to acknowledge them, to appreciate them, to steep yourself in them, to let them impact you and your story and your structure, your history, all of that. That's really where the transformational magic happens. And really, there are just so many different kinds of, good. So many different ways that your nature can feel. Love, joy, value, meaning, spaciousness, and peacefulness, power, and will, and determination. many different kinds of emptiness. Like I say, a lot of these things are challenging when they first happen, but as they open up and we kind of settle into them, they all have their beauty. They all have their magic. So I think that's mostly what I wanted to bring to your attention this evening. Invite you into an end of year festive inquiry. So let's do a little exercise. If you're not going to do the exercise, now's a good time to drop off and then sort of come back in probably about, I don't know, say 15. Yeah, come back in like sort of 15 minutes or so. 17 minutes. Come back at like 20. No, that would get us to 25 past. So here's what I'd like you to do. You're going to get into groups of two. You're going to find yourself in into a breakout room. And each of you will have 5 minutes. And in your 5 minutes, do a couple of things. Firstly, see some of the reasons that stop you from exploring your positive experiences. You just want to see. I've mentioned some possibilities. You might have all kinds of other reasons. I don't think there's anything there to explore. No problem, no reason. Got other more important things to do. It's more important to look at my issues. I just don't think about it. I don't know. Just mention some of the things, some of the reasons you have for not exploring into those. We might also think, oh, it's just too good to be true. So you want to look into some of your own reasons and then just check in with yourself and see what's here. Right? And explore it, whatever it is. You might be feeling good, you might be feeling lousy, you might be in the middle of something. It really doesn't matter. Just give yourself a couple of minutes to see where you are, to be in touch with yourself, and to say a little more about it. Okay, so that'll be 5 minutes each, total of 10 minutes. And then take 5 minutes together to just discuss what you see about exploring positive experience. And if you're someone who's sitting there thinking, positive experience, what the hell? I never have positive experience. I'd love to explore it if it just came along. Then be with that, right? Remember, I'm not suggesting you need to be anything other than where you are, right? And you might look at it too. Look at it a little more closely to see if that is really the case. Okay, so 5 minutes each, 5 minutes discussion. We'll give you an extra couple of minutes for sort of coming and going. And I reckon let's be back here, let's say 20 minutes from now. Yeah, 20 minutes from now is good. Let's be back here just after past. So wish you an interesting exploration and see you in a few minutes. Okay, so welcome back, everyone. We have the time for a little discussion and sharing, questions, comments. So let's see who would like to say something, share something. I'm curious to see what you discovered. Yeah, Caroline, go ahead there.
Hi, Dom.
Hi.
Let me just hang on. Let me just.
If you pop it on speaker view, you should have just the two of us on it.
I don't want to see myself though. Wait a minute.
I don't think you can pin while Susan's got us spotlighted.
Okay.
You're kind of stuck with yourself there.
Oh dear. Okay, never mind. I'll put up with myself. with seeing myself. I mean. All right. Yeah, this is interesting because what sort of came up around this is actually something where there is a bit of an ouch in it as well
Hmm. Yes.
that I'm aware of. Um, so there's something about, well, there's a few things in it and it's not quite clear.
Yeah.
Um,
Um,
so when I sort of sense into the positive state, it seems often very quickly there's just some full blown kind of essential quality there that feels amazing and wonderful and often very quickly. But what comes in there around that is, especially if it's in a group, small group or a big group, um, it's like I sense a kind of the ego comes in and tries to kind of take credit for that or appropriate that or puff itself up or go, oh, now I'm doing well. Now look at me, or
oh, okay.
something. And I
Uh,
really don't like that. It really
oh,
spoils the whole experience. And then afterwards,
uh,
there's a big super ego attack for that having happened, like, oh, you're so egotistical or whatever. Or um, and
okay.
there's a real kind of ouch around it. And then there's another side to it, which is the fear of, in Australia, we use the phrase tall poppy syndrome of
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
don't dare shine and be bright or else you get smashed down, and so there's all of that in it
Very good.
actually.
I'm very glad. Well, I'm glad you mentioned all of it, but I'm glad you mentioned that last bit. I was going to say something about that as
Uh-huh.
well. That so one of the things that can direct us away from, from being with what feels good is our superego, right? Who do you think you are? How can you feel that? Who are you to feel that kind of strength or love or bigness or vastness or value? All kinds of things. And both to just feel it and recognize it yourself, or God forbid, to dare to recognize that that's actually you, that is your nature. Superego might have all kinds of opinions about that. And then to kind of show up with it is yet another
Mm,
thing for other people to
mm,
see, right? So
mm,
that you mentioned some sort of cultural kind of overlays there, cultural superego
mm,
that can come in that you need to keep these things hidden. So
mm,
all very good to see. Like, so start with that one. Like, how is
mm.
it just to kind of recognize that? How does it affect you to see
Yeah,
that?
it's well, I mean, for me, the feeling it myself, I don't have a kind of super ego injunction around that at all when
Mhm.
it's just me or with my teacher, that's okay. Um, but with anyone else, even one buddy, let alone a group, let alone people who aren't in Diamond Approach, it's like,
Mhm.
yeah. But and it's sort of, yeah, there's this thing, the phrase that came in our inquiry was this thing about don't hide your light under a bushel. But for me, there's this
Mhm.
huge thing about I have to hide it under a bushel, and there's a fear
How
that
come? How come?
people will be jealous or they'll hate me for it or it's showing off and it's
Yeah.
and all, but also I'm aware that that does come in, that thing about how my ego, I do feel it creep in when that does happen in a group or something.
Okay. So
It,
that kind of, right,
yeah,
that brings us back to the first piece. So what's your
yeah,
attitude? It seems like you don't like that part of you. You said so, right? I
no,
wonder what stops you just being curious about it.
yeah,
What
I'm
if you could
trying to
just be
be.
open to it and go, oh, well done. Look, I did so well, or whatever what does it want to say? If you could just let that rip, if you didn't hold that back at all, what would it say?
It's like it's going, oh wow, look at me, look how well I'm doing. It's kind
Okay.
of
So how about
but
you
then
feel that just for a second? Just feel that. What's it like to do that?
it's hard there's a sadness around that, because that's
Mhm.
been happening for a long time.
Oh,
and
oh,
and I
yeah.
and I know it. Yeah, there's a sadness. There's a tenderness for it all, for the whole patterning as well.
Very good.
Actually,
Yeah.
but.
Sounds like part of
There's a
what
real
we.
there's a real tenderness for the whole patterning. It's like, oh.
Mhm, mhm.
Like there's a little one there that just so wants to be seen and recognized and noticed and there's a tenderness for that, you know.
Okay,
So
so the tenderness arises for the little one. Does it get through to her?
does it get through to her? Ah, maybe not really. I don't think.
Oh. So
Yeah,
this is a good example, right? So the tenderness is arising, right? Something gentle and kind, right? So your compassion is here. It's a beautiful quality. And now that compassion needs to have its effect, right? It's
yeah,
arising in response to this little one. So now you can just hang out with the two, like let your tenderness kind of
mm,
let the little one and the tenderness be together for a bit and just see
mm,
what happens. Right?
mm,
You can
mm,
hang out with that and see how that goes. And
mm.
at some point you might want to find out, like, what would it be for that little one to shine, to be able to go, look at me, and to feel into that. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Mm. Okay.
good.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks, Caroline. Thanks for bringing that.
Mm.
Yeah, Laurel. There you are. You're unmuted.
Okay, hi.
Hi.
This is just such a prescient thing. I had other plans this morning, but I've been moving in and out of this session. It was just 2 days ago with my teacher that I have these experiences a lot, these experiences of I don't know. But anyway,
Experiences of, I don't know, of what? What
of
are the experiences? Take your time there.
peace,
What can you say about them?
peace,
Yeah.
openness, this just this wonderful flow of, just, I don't know. It all just feels so real.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And yet, and it happened again on Monday.
Mhm.
My teacher said, it's like after a period, it's like you've never experienced that. It's just gone.
Mhm.
And I said to him, it just feels like a dream. It
Right.
feels like a dream rather. And
Yeah.
it makes me so sad to, constantly be returning to ordinary life
Yes.
and, but
Yes.
having this mostly faint, but this memory, this feeling of that, but
Yes.
still not being able, it still feels dreamlike.
Yes. So this is a very, very important thing that you're pointing to here, right? Which is as we kind of glimpse, as our nature begins opening up to us and we get glimpses. I see very often it happens that almost in the same breath, and if not in the same breath, then in fairly quick succession, you'll be feeling some kind of quality, and then you'll be feeling the part of you that lost it, right? That feels disconnected from it, right? Same thing just happened in the previous the previous question. You think There was the kindness, and then there was the little kid that needed the kindness. And what you're saying, there is this kind of beautiful, flowing, peaceful, don't even know what, right? Don't even know what to say about it yet. So it's new, it's you don't even yet really know what it is. And hot on its heels comes the feeling of, and it's so awful when it's gone, when I just have a glimpse of that mystery and that beauty, and then I'm kind of back in the, back without it, right? So useful to understand that that's part of how it goes, right? That's part of the process. That we need to take the time to get to know our nature when it's showing up, and that it is in the nature of how our soul works that the very showing up of the presence will then also begin pushing up the things that are in the way. And we can't hang on to it, right? You got to let them interact with each other. That's really the best way I can put it. So it sort of makes you know that if you're feeling the lost place, right, the place of disconnection from it, you can almost look over at it far away as a dream and see how is it from there, right, to see this dream. And there'll be something, some important thing to be with that part of you too, right? The part of you that feels like, oh, it is gone. I haven't got it anymore. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, what's happening there?
Oh, just this deep,
Yeah.
deep longing,
Okay.
longing,
Okay. So
longing.
can you allow the longing? Is it okay to allow the longing?
Yeah.
To breathe into the longing. Take a few breaths with that. You see, that's already it's drawing you back.
Yeah.
Longing.
Yeah. I can feel my heart is softening.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Take another little breath with that. Feel the softening. What's the softening like?
Well, there's a loving nature to it. It's friendly, loving.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So how about that? Right?
Oh,
So there's connection, and then there's a longing, and then in the longing, you find your heart has this loving nature to it. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So be with that. Yeah, lovely. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Yeah. And we have Che. Hi,
Hi,
Che.
hi, Dominic. I felt the topic of your talk today was very radical in the sense of, why do I not stay or go towards or stay within the positive states? And it brought up a lot of questions. One of them was why I don't do that. I'm wondering if there's something very deep, almost on an instinctual level, as to why I don't tend to, or just maybe people do not tend to do that, go towards that. But on a more personal level, I would say just out of habit. I think
Mhm,
society really pours it into us
mhm,
that there's just something yeah, I had to look at, well, what is my relationship to whether I speak of it or if someone else speaks of their issues or troubles. I
mhm,
have this assumption that then I am being intimate with them or they're being intimate with me
mhm.
versus if they tell me about a trip to wherever, Bali. You know what I mean? There's a sense,
Uh-huh.
there's an intimacy happening within us.
Okay. And you
And
don't feel that that same kind of intimacy would be happening if they were telling you about the exquisite pleasure that they're feeling in the moment?
Well, usually the exquisite feeling, especially out in society, is that usually when you have this feeling, it tends to be connected to an object. It's
Okay.
Bali or you got a raise or something. And so
Okay, I see where you're going with this. Yeah,
sometimes when I feel this, sometimes I just feel this abundance of just, I don't know, silliness or joy. I'm just happy for no reason. But
yeah,
if society at large, I tend to rein it in because it it's like it's not attached to anything. It's
exactly.
yeah. And
Exactly. So how come you have to rein it in? What's that about?
it's almost like someone just talking to themselves on the street. I have this image that I'm gonna be foolish just to say I'm just happy without no reason. And
Right.
that's a very deep habit. I think that we kind of swim society at
Mhm.
large.
Very good. Yeah. So you've said two. I mean, you said a whole bunch of really interesting things. Two things strike me. One is that when we're feeling kind of many different states of presence, they can be arising, you know, in response to something in particular. And sometimes they're just kind of there because that's our nature. I just feel joyful today, or I feel tender and light, or I feel sweet and sensitive, or I feel delicious and juicy, you know? All different ways, not attributable to anything out there, right?
Yeah.
Just my beingness, just the beingness itself manifesting like that. So that challenges the whole habit of, oh, it's got to be something caused by or linked to, or, all of those kind of things. I think that's a great thing. And the other piece to notice is, well, what if they are good things linked to external events? So what, right? I got this wonderful present and I'm so happy about it, right? Well, you can inquire into that. Like, what is the feeling that arises when you get your present, or when you go to Bali and you go on holiday? Like, what comes up then? What starts arising then? Right? There's just as much to discover. Where it isn't if you just keep referencing only the external thing, right?
Mhm.
But if you start from the external thing and then move towards, well, what is the inner state that begins arising in connection with that? Well, why not? I went out for a beautiful walk in the mountains and I just felt the immensity and the vastness of the mountains. And actually, well, that's probably something that you can sense directly there in your experience, right?
Yeah.
You can inquire into all of these things. You can take the most mundane thing in your life. This is part of the beautiful discovery of the diamond approach. The most simple thing in your life, and you can see, well, what is that actually? What is going on there? How is my consciousness unfolding as I go through that particular thing, right? Maybe it's a nice thing. How
But
come I like doing that so much?
it feels like it's easier to do that with diamond heart people. You just feel like that it can flow from there. So there is a little bit of a bilingual kind of like I,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you're imagining that. I mean, so the previous person also said a little bit about that. I mean, it's true that if you're just talking about these kind of things to somebody who hasn't done any inquiry, they might look at you a bit funny. And I mean, that's always the case with, deep sort of spiritual work, that people may not really get what you're talking about, and might look slightly askance at you if you start talking about your inner states. I mean, that's just a thing.
That
So you
should
have
not
to be
stop one.
aware of that.
One last,
That shouldn't what?
that should not stop one to do that. But Dominic,
Well, it certainly shouldn't stop you experiencing things and, being with your truth. In terms of actually sharing it, I think you can be discriminating about that. Some people you can share with and some people you can't. Some people, you can share some beautiful inner thing that's going on for you. It will just mean nothing to them. And they might just think you're a bit cuckoo, which may or may not be actually helpful.
um, I know there's other people, but just one last thing. This thing
Uh-huh.
of habits is that also I feel that Diamond Heart, our group, we are in the habit of when they're sending us off to do inquiries, there is like we're looking at obstacles and we're looking at issues. And so there is a dominance of
Mm.
habit of looking at you see what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I think that's true, and that is part. But when you think about it, we also, even in a retreat, you will spend some time looking at the quality itself, right? I mean,
Yeah, that
I hope
does
you get to it eventually.
that does come out towards the end, but then
Right.
it's usually the time is up. So there's a kind of structuring of this that I
Okay,
like. A lot of
good.
times when the person get to there, it's like, oh well, it's minutes compared to leading up to a certain.
Right. Yeah.
I would.
I think what you're saying is perfectly valid there. What we're mostly talking about here, of course, is just our open inquiry, right? It's just the kind of inquiry when you just sit down of in the morning or an evening or whatever, and you just explore where you are. And that is, of course, our core central practice. And in that, you want to explore wherever you actually are, positive, negative, whatever it is, and however it changes. So, yeah, wonderful. Thank you. Great questions. Great questions. Cormac.
Hello.
Hi, Cormac. Hey,
Hello there, Dom.
good to see you.
Yeah, it's very nice to be here. Just, I suppose, quite quickly, really, two words: noticing and trusting. So what I've been experiencing for quite a while now is a recognition, a noticing of a different atmosphere. So this is out of inquiry, just in everyday life, just noticing. And my colleague in our little exercise used a good word, brightness. So there's something about noticing a brightness as opposed to my habitual, long-standing, multi-decade experience of noticing darkness and carrying darkness with me. So,
Uh-huh.
so that's part one, is the noticing. And then part
Yes.
two is the trusting. So
Okay.
which of those two things do I trust? Do I trust the habitual darkness experience, the problematic, I need to solve something, I need to understand, there's something, or do I trust the brightness? And there's a movement for me which appears to be occurring about trusting the brightness, raising the question, well, why should I? Even though I don't understand where the brightness has come from, I'm not able to pin it down.
Right.
I can't enumerate the causes. I can enumerate
Yes.
all the darkness causes, but I can't enumerate why in this moment am I just feeling brightness, but choosing to trust that rather than the habitual place. So those are, sort of two things going on that
What makes you trust that?
what makes me it seems like it's a decision. It's like, oh, I recognize something and I'm choosing to trust the brightness. Whereas the other feels like it's an habitual sort of settling into
Okay.
a pattern.
Okay. So there's a decision, it's kind of going against a pattern, but
Yeah.
still, how come you trust the brightness?
How come I trust the bright? It's nicer.
Okay. So you trust it because it's nicer?
I trust it because it feels like I'm more alive in that place. It feels like there is a shaking out of something that brings aliveness. Is that all of it? How come I trust it? I just trust it because I don't know why I trust it. I really, that seems like a bottomless question.
I think that's a very, very interesting question to look at. How come you trust it? Yeah. So, to trust something because it feels good. I mean, that, we trust something because it doesn't hurt us, right? That's natural. We kind of tend to do that. But you can look into that and continue to see for yourself what's really true for you about that. But one direction that I'll put out there that you might come to, or you might, I'm not saying you need to, but I mean, the question is it actually there? Is it true? Is it happening?
Is it true?
Yeah, is it there? And I'm cautious of the word true because, but like when you're feeling the brightness, is that actually the truth? Is
Yeah,
that what's there?
Yeah. So that's a question I have been asking, and I know that my habitual pattern would be one of doubtful sort of cynicism, wondering whether or not there's a bit of whitewashing going on here.
Yeah.
But no. There's something deeper than that. That's why I said bottomless. It feels like
very good.
It's deeper than those more superficial.
And you can tell that.
Yeah.
That's part of the truth too. So when you allow that skepticism, you look at it, at some point you can see, oh, there's that movement of skepticism, and actually here's the brightness, and the brightness is here, and actually it is really here, right? It is, in a sense, more real in this moment than the skeptical position.
Yeah, no, I mean,
ultimately the truth.
Yeah, because my sense is that one is maybe relative and the other absolute truth there somewhere. So yes, there may be questions that haven't been addressed. There may be all sorts of things, but underneath that somewhere is a bedrock that feels.
This feels okay. So there's something there that again sounds like that you can feel, that you can sense, that feels a bit more solid. So that's also something arising in your experience. Oh, there's a sense of something more solid here, and I can feel that.
Yeah.
So again, that's true. That's actually arising in your experience. So states can be good, can be bad. In any one moment, you might be feeling wonderful or you might be feeling awful. Ultimately, what matters is it really the truth? Is that really what's showing up right now? Right? Is that what's here? Right? If I'm not trying to dress it up or dress it down or make it anything else, yeah, there's just kind of some brightness here. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Good. I'm happy to hear that. The darkness is parting a little.
Indeed.
Great. Thanks, Cormac.
Thank you.
Good. So that brings us to time. Sharon, I see you have your hand up. I think we're sort of at time for this evening, though. So thank you for hold your question and see what you come to with it. So, some closing thoughts. Wish you all well as we come towards the end of the year. Hard to believe another year coming to a conclusion again. And we're taking some time, me and my little dive-in team, Susan and Michael and Julie, we're rejigging, reshaping some of our courses and what we're going to be offering next year. So you can look out for some announcements early in the year. We're probably not going to be running anything through early January. So we're giving ourselves also a little breather as we put together some future courses and some new things to announce early next year. So look out for that in your inboxes. Reminder that all these sessions are recorded. This recording will be posted up on YouTube sometime in the next sort of week or so. And you can also find all of the past recordings of Dive In with Dom. So sessions related to this, we've got lots looking at. I'm thinking of the one where there's nothing to inquire. How do you inquire into that? So that might be an interesting one to look at alongside this in terms of how to inquire into, well, just not the usual problems that we go gunning for. So things that show how much broader inquiry is than just solving problems. So I wish you a wonderful end of the year. Thank you for coming along. It's been lovely to be with you. And until next time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Unmute and say goodbye.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Nick,
Dom.
and everybody.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Everybody. Bala bala.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.